The miraculous redemption of Dinah, discovering God's shocking plan for transformation and faith. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, as the sun rose over the hills of Shechem, Dinah, daughter of Leah and Jacob, stepped out from the family tents, the golden rays spilling warmth over her youthful spirit. She looked out upon the bustling city, where the air was filled with the chirp of children and the clamor of merchants selling their wares. In her heart, longing sparked with the desire to meet the daughters of the land, to share laughter and learn their songs. Raised in the covenant family of Jacob, promised abundance in the land of Canaan, Dinah's curiosity bubbled with the thrill of the unknown. However, the vibrant life surrounding her would soon take a drastic turn. As Dinah engaged with the daughters of Shechem, her beauty caught the eye of Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite. With fervor and intentions darkened by lust, he pursued her relentlessly, leading to a moment of devastating violation that broke the harmony of Dinah's world. The city that once echoed with laughter now seemed to murmur with shadows of betrayal, leaving Dinah ensnared in anguish. Her brothers, Simeon and Levi, upon hearing of their sister's plight, were consumed by rage. The honor of their family had been stained, and they conspired revenge against Shechem. Dinah silently watched, a tragic witness to the whirlwind of her family's fury, torn between her internal sorrow and the chaotic whirl of vengeance that threatened to rip her community apart. Her heart yearned for peace amidst the tumult. In the stillness of the night, alone in her thoughts, Dinah sought solace in prayer. Beneath her grief, she recalled the stories of her forefathers, Abraham's unwavering faith, Isaac's trials, and the promises made by God to her people. "O Lord," she whispered, "what is your plan in this chaos?" A flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps God was still present, even in the darkest hours. This realization stirred a deep desire in Dinah to heal not just her wounded spirit, but also the rift threatening her family and community. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the dawn approached, the brothers enacted their violent plan, unleashing their fury upon Shechem, a confrontation that wrought devastation on the Hivite men. In the aftermath, Dinah was left to confront the monstrous legacy of her family's actions. Torn between the pain of injustice and the stirring call of forgiveness, her heart wrestled with overwhelming questions of identity and purpose. Could she choose the path of healing, breaking the cycle of vengeance, or would she allow the weight of her family's response to crush her? Deep within her spirit, Dinah felt God's whisper, a beckoning to be a vessel of restoration in the aftermath of chaos. As she stood at the crossroads of pain and potential, hope flickered like a fragile candle against the shadow. Would she embrace this transformative journey, redefining her family's legacy through grace and love? The answers lay just beyond her reach, beckoning Dinah forward into the unfolding narrative of redemption and divine purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a veil of twilight across the land, Dinah found herself enveloped in a mixture of sorrow and contemplation. The air was thick with the taste of guilt and the haunting cries of those laid to rest by her brother's vengeful hands. Each whisper of the wind seemed to call her name, urging her to reflect on the weighty decisions before her. Dinah wandered from the camp, her heart heavy with remorse. "Oh God," she prayed, her voice trembling, "what shall I do? My heart breaks for my kin, yet vengeance feels foreign to me." She paced amidst the olive trees, their leaves rustling as if to respond. From the depths of her soul, she longed for clarity amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, her brothers lingered by the river, discussing their deeds with a fierce fervor that revealed both their triumph and their torment. "We have avenged our sister's honor," exclaimed Levi, his face illuminated by the fading light. "Let it be known throughout the land that we will not suffer injustice." But Simeon, though driven by righteous anger, bore a silent burden. Did we not act like them? What remains for Dinah in this aftermath? As night settled over Shechem, Dinah returned to her family's tents, wrestling with the haunting thoughts of her brother's actions and the futures they had irrevocably altered. A heaviness clutched her heart as she entered the tent where Leah, her mother, had been waiting. The despair in her mother's eyes mirrored her own, a silent recognition of the shattered peace. Leah, sensing Dinah's turmoil, took her daughter in her arms and spoke softly. "My child, the road ahead is fraught with strife, but God is with us even in our darkest hours." Dinah leaned into her mother's embrace, finding solace in her words. "Mother, can the Lord still use me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Will I remain a stain upon our family's name?" "Dinah," Leah replied, "the Lord's mercy endures beyond our failings. Remember the promise given to Abraham. In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Genesis 12:3. Perhaps God has set apart a path for you to lead us from destruction into healing. Inspired by her mother's faith, Dinah made her way outside once more, where the night sky glimmered with stars, each a reminder of God's vast promises. She knelt on the cool earth, laying her hands upon the ground as if to grasp the very foundations of her faith. "O Lord," she cried, "I surrender this pain. Let me be an instrument of your grace." In the depths of her heart, a flame ignited, a desire not merely for personal healing, but for the restoration of her family and her people. As she stood to return to her tent, a determination settled within her. She would not let the actions driven by anger define her or her legacy. Thus began a new chapter in Dinah's life, a chapter marked by courage and vision, as she began to weave through the consequences of her family's actions with the thread of forgiveness. But as events unfolded, a hush fell over the land. Whispers of vengeance still rippled through the hearts of men, and unbeknownst to Dinah, a foreboding shadow loomed over the horizon. But what she did not yet know, the Spirit seemed to impart, was how her choice to seek peace would invoke a greater challenge, one that would reveal God's sovereign plan for Canaan, a destiny even larger than her own. And it came to pass that in the days following the turmoil, the heart of Dinah was restless, yet alive with hope. She walked among the tents of her family, hearing the hushed conversations of her brothers, who spoke of the desecrated honor of their sister and the avenging fire that burned in their hearts. Yet each word echoed back to her not only the pain of loss, but also the suffocating weight of revenge. "Shall I walk the pathway of vengeance they tread?" Dinah pondered, feeling the stirrings of God's presence in her spirit. Thus she took her station outside her mother's tent and called to her brothers, Levi and Simeon, who stood engaged in talk of warfare, their eyes alight with fervent zeal. "Brothers," she called, her voice shaking with intensity, "why do you gather in the clutches of hatred? My heart yearns for peace, for healing, not for the embers of more violence." Levi turned, brows furrowing as he met her gaze, unfurling the heavy chains of his burdens. "Dinah, you know not the depth of our sorrow. They have shamed you, our family. As protectors, how could we stand idle?" "But what do we gain through bloodshed?" she implored, stepping toward them. "God has not called us to spread desolation, but to restore wholeness. Will you not seek a way to reconcile rather than to provoke more hatred among our people and theirs?" Simeon's heart felt the draw of her words. "What then shall we do?" he asked, the weight of remorse pressing upon his soul. "Let us seek the Shechemites, and extend not the sword, but our hands in peace." Dinah declared boldly, her spirit ignited by divine inspiration. Perhaps God will turn this curse into a blessing for both our families. A silence fell over the brothers as they contemplated her proposal. The cool night air thickened with tension. Yet it was Levi who shifted first, his heart stirred by the new-found fire of hope. "You speak with courage, sister. Shall we call upon the elders of the city? Perhaps in dialogue we might come to terms." Thus did Dinah embolden her brothers, for they set forth into the night, their path lit by the stars that bore witness to their journey. As they approached the outskirts of Shechem, tension in the air was palpable, for the echoes of retribution lingered. The elders assembled, wary yet curious of the approach of Jacob's sons. "Why have you come?" asked Hamor, his voice low with distrust. "We seek not war, but peace," Levi declared, taking Dinah's cue to not draw weapons but words. "We cannot undo what has transpired, but we come with an offer for reconciliation. My sister Dinah, whom honor was stolen from, wishes not for revenge but healing." "How can we trust you?" asked a hardened voice from among the crowd, memories of ash and blood fierce in his heart. Dinah stepped forward, the weight of her family's past heavy upon her shoulders, yet her heart soared with faith. "Trust begins in the heart, and I ask for your hearts to be open. I have been where anger leads, and it does not lead toward life, but death. Let us forge a new beginning, and together we may find a way to heal both our families." The murmur of intrigue passed among the clansmen. Their faces reflected weariness of violence. A glimmer of understanding began to dawn. Dinah's voice softened with urgency. "Will you not listen to the tender words of healing?" Thus, at that moment, the heavens stirred. The shadows that lingered over Canaan seemed to waver in anticipation. And yet, the danger of lingering hatred flickered beneath the surface like a dormant flame, binding many to their former desires. Unbeknownst to Dinah, her steps toward peace would not only engage the broken hearts of man, but would unveil a pivotal truth in God's divine tapestry, a truth of unity that would reflect his redemptive plan for all of Canaan. For behold, as Dinah's heart aligned with the purpose of the Almighty, the destiny of nations would intertwine in ways unforeseen. But will they choose the path of grace, or will darkness return? The Spirit whispered, leaving the true outcome hanging delicately in the balance, a suspense echoing through the corridors of time. And it came to pass that as Dinah stood upon the precipice of hope, the hearts of the Shechemites began to shift, for they felt the weight of her sincerity. Hamor still regarded them with caution, yet within the folds of his resolve, a flicker of curiosity ignited. "Why should we negotiate when blood has been spilled?" he pressed, his voice firm, yet quavering with uncertainty. "What assurance will you provide that such a pact will hold?" Levi stepped forward, wisdom mingling with resolve. "Let the commitment of our words be a testament of our intentions. Swear an oath, and let peace be the seal upon our hearts, for we desire a covenant of healing." Dinah felt the stirring of the Spirit within her. Faith blossomed in response to the collective yearning for reconciliation. "Let it be known that we are not enemies but fellow wanderers upon this earthly soil." She looked deep into Hamor's eyes. "Let the past be a painful teacher, and may the future be a canvas for unity painted by the grace of God." The elders, though weary, stood silent, stirred by the unyielding strength of Dinah's presence. It was as though time stood still, each breath thickened by anticipation, as the weight of generations weighed heavy upon them all. Then a voice rose among the crowd, one that spoke from the depths of sorrow. "If our women were to unite, and our families entwined through covenant, could this truly heal the rift between us?" A murmur rippled through the crowd, a collective hope mingled with fear, wisdom tangled with doubt. Levi, emboldened, answered, "Let us bind our houses with marriage, for in unity we find strength." Dinah's honor shall be restored, and our families shall become one. And thus did Dinah's courage shift the foundations of the hearts that stood before her. The elders conferred among themselves, weighing the proposal like seed cast upon fertile soil. "Let it be as you say," Hammer finally proclaimed, "but let there be a sign to seal our agreement, a pledge rooted in our integrity. We shall give our daughters to your sons, and your daughters will be ours, as long as we honor this bond." As the words settled amongst the assembly, they were filled with a strange mixture of hope and apprehension, for a potential peace lay before them, yet the shadows of vengeance still lurked nearby. Dinah felt a swell of gratitude, her heart lifted high to the heavens. May this new alliance be a blessing, one that brings our families into the light of God's favor. And with that, a covenant was birthed beneath the stars, the ink of which was woven with prayers and profound yearning. Yet unbeknownst to all present, the winds of change were stirring not merely among the people, but in the very divine timeline that God had woven since the foundation of the world. For though they struck a pact of peace with a glance toward the future, a far-reaching plan was unfurling, one that would test their resolve and reveal the depths of their true hearts. It was a time of testing, for the swift currents of family honor would soon be challenged. Thus, in the shadows where faith and despair battled, Dinah beckoned for a promise from God. "Lord," she prayed silently, "may your will be done in all things. For even now I sense that you weave a greater story through our lives, one that no man can alter." Little did she know that their choices, rooted in grace or chaos, would forever alter the fate of the descendants who would follow. In whispering winds the truth lingered. What will emerge from their intertwined fates? For the destiny of all nations hangs delicately upon a thread, poised between forgiveness and strife. And it came to pass, in the days that followed the covenant, the people of Jacob resided in peace with the Shechemites, yet within the hearts of the covenant-bearers there lay a trembling uncertainty. In the homesteads, Dinah moved about with a lightness born of hope, yet she carried an unspoken weight, for her mind pondered the ramifications of their pact. Each evening she sought refuge in prayer, lifting her voice to the Lord. "O God of my fathers, grant us wisdom and guard our hearts. May our past not rise to haunt the fragile peace." As time unfolded, a voice arose from within the household of Jacob, a voice consumed with anger and a desire for restitution. Simeon, burdened by loyalty to his sister and a thirst for justice, whispered among the younger sons, "Should we accept their daughters, knowing a shadow remains unvanquished? My heart cries out for what was taken from our sister." Levi, hearing the clamor in the air, stood firm, yet within him wrestled the spirit of conflict. "We have sworn an oath. Let us not be ensnared by vengeance," he implored, wrestling with the legacy of his own heart as he recalled their father's lessons of peace. Meanwhile, the Shechemites prepared for the union. Hamor, consulting with his people, heralded the day of celebration, yet therein lay a tension. A festering distrust thrummed beneath the surface, unrecognized by the revelers. "We shall unite our families," he declared. "Let our daughters be the promise of a new dawn." But his voice trembled with the weight of deceit and the unquenched thirst of ambition. And so the day arrived when Jacob's lineage and Shechem's house met to celebrate the newfound bonds. The air was filled with the sweet aroma of sacrifice and the sound of music and merriment. Dinah, adorned in garments befitting her exalted status, came forth among the guests, yet her spirit stirred with an unyielding unease. "Is this truly the way, O Lord?" she prayed silently amidst the fervor. Yet in that very moment a shadow of the past loomed large. Drawn out by tumult, a figure stepped forward, the son of Hamor, the very one whose actions had once brought chaos into Dinah's life. His eyes gleamed with intent. "Shall we not feast and rejoice, for we have become one?" he proclaimed as he surveyed the assembly, no hint of remorse adorning his countenance. As laughter filled the air, Levi and Simeon, their hearts aflame with the injustice that had been done, conferred in hushed tones. "This cannot stand," Simeon's voice quavered. "Will they mock the memory of our sister's anguish beneath the veil of celebration?" "It is true," Levi whispered back, a fiery wrath kindling within him. "Shall we allow our covenant to bind us to the very ones who have wronged us in the sight of God?" Then a resolution took shape as they turned from the joy of the festival, an irreversible choice rendered from the depths of pain and strife. In hushed tones, they spoke of revenge that would bring honor to Dinah's name, not heeding the weight of their actions, nor the spiritual darkness that nestled in their hearts. Yet in the silence that followed their pact, the heavens observed with bated breath, for even now an unseen hand was at work, crafting a narrative that would echo through generations. Unbeknownst to them, the choices born of anger and vengeance would stir the winds of destiny, each heart beating in rhythm with the sacred plans ordained since the dawn of creation. What would become of their paths, intertwined in the tapestry of God's providence? As the din of festivities poured into the night, the true test of their faith loomed, masked in the impending storm of their own making. Thus, the tapestry lay half-woven, brimming with both the light of divine intention and the darkness of human folly. And it came to pass, as the night wore on and the sun set beneath the horizon, that Levi and Simeon, moved by fierce indignation, took counsel together, the weight of their sister's anguish pressing upon their hearts like a heavy stone. They resolved in their spirits that the honor of Dinah must be avenged. "Let us arise in the stillness of night," Levi urged, his voice urgent, yet laced with a fervent righteousness. "We shall strike as the Lord avenges the oppressed. The cries of our sister have not gone unheard." Simeon, his heart ignited with righteous zeal, nodded, and together they slipped quietly through the revelry that danced heedlessly in the flickering torchlight of the evening. The laughter of the Shechemites, unaware of the storm brewing in the hearts of Jacob's sons, echoed off the hills as sweetly as a deceiving melody. They approached the encampment of the Shechemites, stealthy as the subtle shadows in the moonlight, their resolve becoming a fervor. They spied the men laying since evening in their tents, indulging in excess, unaware of the disaster that was upon them. For the sons of Jacob bore the weight of their plan as they whispered fervent prayers, invoking God's guidance in this tumultuous endeavor. "O Lord of hosts," cried out Levi, "if it be your will, grant us strength to uphold our sister's honor." Yet while they prepared their hearts for a fierce act of vengeance, a voice floated through the unseen air, a gentle whisper that cut through the darkness. "Vengeance belongs to me," spoke the Lord in the recesses of their souls, his reminder mingling with their emotions, a steadying presence amidst the fury. But the anger they felt was a consuming flame, and its heat masked the gentle caution of divine warning. Then came the moment of decision. They seized their swords, blades glinting like stars in the twilight. The brothers, emboldened by the spirit of justice, plunged into the stillness of night, their hearts resolute. As they struck down the unsuspecting men, the cries of that night would forever be echoed in the annals of fear and shame, drawing blood not only from the Shechemites, but also from their own souls. Thus it came to pass that the rage of the sons of Jacob poured forth like the waters of a mighty torrent, unforgiving and devastating. When the dawn broke, the remnants of the night's fury lay scattered like dried leaves blown by the autumn wind, and the cries of bereavement echoed in the valley. But Jacob emerged from his tent, a weight of terror gripping his heart as he surveyed the carnage wrought by his sons. "What have you done?" Jacob lamented, grief and disbelief mingling in his voice. "You have brought destruction upon us. The sons of Hamor shall now come against us, and we shall be a stench in the land." Then Simeon turned to his father, the fires of wrath still burning in his chest. "Father, their transgressions against our sister demanded response. We are defenders of our kin." Yet amidst their justification, the shadow of uncertainty loomed, and the brothers' hearts began to tremble, for they had plunged into the depths of sin, and the repercussions of their actions loomed heavier than any they had anticipated. And in the midst of this turmoil, a voice again stirred within Levi, whispering images of the covenant promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of blessings and a land promised. "O God," he prayed silently, "how can there be hope in these ashes?" Then the Lord spoke to them in the silence of their despair. "My plans are not thwarted by your choices. From this stumbling I will orchestrate redemption. For I have called Dinah to be a vessel of healing among many nations, and what is meant for harm shall be turned into good." As Jacob and his sons stood amidst the wreckage of their choices, little did they know that God's sovereign purpose was but a breath away from unfolding, a mosaic where pain birthed restoration, setting in motion a sacred plan that would bear fruit in ways they could scarcely fathom. In the depths of what seemed like chaos, the seed of divine reconciliation was being sown. The journey of Dinah towards deliverance was just beginning, and the heavens opened to reveal the greater tapestry woven with mercy, hidden yet poised to be revealed in God's perfect timing. A question echoed in the hearts of those afflicted by their choices. What transformational purpose did the Almighty have in store for Dinah and her fractured family? And it came to pass that Jacob, filled with trepidation and sorrow, gathered his sons close, his voice trembling with both fear and authority. "You have brought ruin upon us, and the people of this land shall unite against us. We are but a small company, and they will seek to destroy us." The brothers felt the weight of their father's words, and in their hearts shame began to take root. The cries of the slain echoed in their ears, mingling with the memories of Dinah's desolation. "Father," said Levi, his voice barely above a whisper, "we acted to defend our sister's honor, yet did we blind ourselves to the consequences of our vengeance?" Jacob's brow furrowed under the weight of his children's actions. "Your act has sown seeds of animosity," he lamented. "What I see before my eyes is the unraveling of our family, the shadow of violence stretching over our lineage." As they stood surrounded by the evidence of their wrath, a sudden silence enveloped them, like the calm before a storm. Yet even in that stillness, the ripple of divine purpose began to stir in the heart of Levi. He recalled the words of the Lord, whispered in the night, a promise not to curse but to redeem. As the sun rose and cast its golden rays across the valley, illuminating the remnants of the night before, Dinah emerged from her own hidden despair, her heart heavy but her spirit flickering with a newfound resolve. She had witnessed the violence that had been performed in her name, and now sought to understand the burgeoning plans of the Almighty. With the dawn breaking upon her, a prayer arose from her lips. "O God, let my life not be defined by this shame. Reveal to me the purpose woven through this suffering. What is your will, O Lord?" In that moment of earnest seeking, the earth beneath her feet trembled, as if the very fabric of creation responded to her plea. Dinah felt a surge of strength course through her spirit. It was as if she was being beckoned toward something greater, a calling that seemed near, yet distant. Meanwhile, Jacob and his sons were filled with dread at the sound of approaching footsteps. Word had quickly spread of the calamity that had befallen the Shechemites, and now enemies marched toward them, angry and united. The brothers prepared themselves, gripping their weapons, their hearts caught between trepidation and regret. Simeon turned to Levi. "Though we acted in anger, perhaps the Lord will still fight for us. He is our refuge, even when we falter." Levi nodded, realizing that perhaps there was still a glimmer of hope amidst this darkness. "Let us humbly approach the Lord." lest we rely on our own strength alone. As the air thickened with anticipation, a figure emerged from the ranks of the approaching men, the chief of the Shechemites, mourning for his fallen kin. "You have made a grave error against us," he shouted, his voice echoing through the valley. "We seek justice for the blood you have spilled." Yet even as his words pierced the morning air, Dinah stepped forward from the shadows, resolute in her purpose. "Wait. Let us not be drawn into a cycle of bloodshed. There is a God among us who is capable of redemption." The brothers looked upon her in astonishment as she continued, her voice steady. "The Lord has plans beyond our understanding. This is not merely vengeance, it is a call for reconciliation. Shall we not seek peace instead of perpetuating the wrong?" The tension hung heavy as the two factions surveyed one another, caught in the web of Dinah's proclamation, a declaration not just of peace, but of the possibility of healing. In the midst of this, a stirring in the heavens echoed the promise of the Lord. "From Dinah shall arise a covenant of mercy, for I shall lead her and her family to a destiny unwritten. Behold, the time has come for my restoration to be made known." The atmosphere shifted, the path forward veiled in both uncertainty and divine promise. What miraculous transformation awaited Dinah, and how would her courageous stand alter the fate of her family and their foes? The depth of God's plan was yet to be unveiled, yet the threads of hope began to weave through the hearts present, etched with the potential of divine redemption. As the weight of silence lingered over the valley, the hearts of all present began to stir with an unrecognized potential. The chief of the Shechemites narrowed his gaze upon Dinah, his eyes flickering between fury and contemplation. "You speak of peace," he challenged, "after the blood that has stained our land. What can you offer to appease the spirits of the slain?" Dinah, emboldened by the Spirit of the Almighty, replied, "I can offer what the Lord has given me, the promise of healing, and a way to transcend this sorrow. Justice need not be defined by blood. Mercy can lead us to a new beginning." The brothers of Dinah, still gripped by the tumult of their actions, exchanged nervous glances. Levi raised his voice, saying, "Could this be the moment our family's legacy changes? Shall we not heed the words of our sister? If she speaks truth, then our weapons must give way to words of compassion." The chief paused, the fury within him wavering as he considered the brave woman standing before him. The gathered men from the city shifted uneasily, their anger battling with the unexpected plea for peace. "It is not just the blood of our kin that calls for retribution, but also the cry of my heart, wounded and desiring justice," he replied slowly. "Yet if there is a way for our people to find a true path forward, I must know if you are sincere." Dinah took a step closer, her voice a tender echo through the chaos. "Let us not forge a legacy of vengeance, but of reconciliation. I propose an offering. Let the past be the past, and let our families dwell together in harmony. Forgive our trespasses as we seek to mend what has been broken." As her words settled upon the gathered multitude, Jacob watched intently, the weight of fear still resting heavy upon his shoulders. He turned to his sons, who stood unmoving, caught between the tension of pride, familial loyalty, and the prophetic call for peace. Simeon, emboldened by his sister's courage, stepped forward beside Dinah. "If we are to forgive, then let us provide reparations. We shall offer tribute and labor to demonstrate our sincerity, both to the living and to the memory of those lost." At this, the chief of the Shechemites weighed their words, and the glimmer of faith nestled deep within him began to grow. His heart was troubled, yet Dinah's courage had invited a shift of perspective. "Your plea resonates," he finally said. "For I too hold the desire to see my people live in peace and not in the bitterness of war. We shall consider this covenant, but know that it requires true humility and a capital of goodwill from you." In that moment, a stillness swept over the valley, an echo of divine presence unmistakable in the air. Jacob, seeing his daughter stand as a bridge between their past and potential future, felt the stirrings of the Almighty. He murmured a prayer, lifting his eyes upwards. "O Lord, if this be your will, let us walk this path towards healing." Then the sun broke through the clouds, a brilliant light shining down upon Dinah, illuminating the steadfastness of her faith. The chief surveyed her, a softening heartbeat within him, as upon each heart present the weight of grace began to settle. At that instant, a feeling of deep conviction surged through Levi as he perceived the divine hand shifting the foundations of their reality. A whisper of revelation filled his spirit. If we embrace what has been promised, the Lord shall turn our folly into testimony for generations to come. Thus, the urgency of divine reconciliation began, a sacred moment captured in the folds of history as the shadows of vengeance receded. Yet unbeknownst to them, the plans of the Lord were only beginning to unfurl. For as Dinah's voice ushered forth a new covenant, the heavens remained attentive, waiting to reveal, from this day through the heart of Dinah's chosen path, the lineage of promise shall emerge, transforming even the remnants of despair into vessels of everlasting hope. What glorious purpose would unfold from this unexpected alliance? The tapestry of God's faithfulness continued to weave a story yet untold, calling all to trust in his relentless redemptive power. Then the chief of the Shechemites turned to his people, a solemn weight pressing upon his spirit. "Brothers, we stand on the edge of a decision that shall shape our legacy. Shall we, in our wounded pride, cleave to the bitter roots of vengeance, or shall we look to the light that Dinah has brought forth?" The men of Shechem murmured, their voices a blend of uncertainty and hope. Doubts lingered like shadows, yet the bold declaration of Dinah cast a radiant beam upon their hearts. The chief raised his hand, silencing them with authority. "Let us convene a gathering to deliberate upon this covenant. It is a decision that may lead to peace or to the further destruction of our bonds." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting an aura of gold over the land, Jacob approached Dinah, placing a gentle hand upon her shoulder. "My daughter, your bravery has invited a tremendous shift. There is great peril in the pathway of reconciliation, yet perhaps it is the forsaking of our swords that will herald in a new beginning." Dinah nodded, her heart buoyed by her father's steadfastness. "Father, our hope rests solely in the Lord who guides our steps. His power can transform not only our hearts, but also those of the Shechemites. We must trust in his plan, even if the road ahead appears steep." As dusk turned to twilight, the elders of Shechem gathered at their chief's behest. With solemn expressions, they listened as Dinah and her brothers laid forth the terms of their proposal. "Let us unite our peoples," Levi spoke, "in a binding covenant that encompasses trust, reparations, and love. We shall become one, a new lineage crafted from the ashes of division." The chief studied them, the weight of history palpably present. "If we are to embrace this, we shall need proof. Trust not only in words, but in the deeds that follow." "Then let the first fruits of our unity be offered," suggested Simeon, earnest in his pursuit of peace. "We shall bring forth offerings to the Lord, seeking his guidance and favor upon this new alliance." As the sun bid farewell, the night enveloped the valley, yet within the hearts of those gathered shone a flicker of hope. With heavy but determined hearts, they began to chant a song of unity, an offering of voices both ancient and new, rising like sweet incense toward heaven. The elders of Shechem cast their lot, entering into a binding agreement with Jacob and his sons. "Let it be known," the chief declared, "that we embrace this covenant. With our consent, we shall bear the marks of this union, as a testament to the world of what can arise when mercy is given reign." Unknown to them, as the mingling of two families took root, the heavens and earth aligned in heavenly symphony. Each step of faith trembled through the tapestry of creation. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob turned his gaze toward this unfolding narrative, with purpose resonating among the stars. Little did they realize, this newly forged alliance was but a step toward the divine orchestration laid long before the foundation of the world. As the stars blinked above, God's promises hovered over the gathering, waiting for the opportune moment to be unveiled. What significant future would spring forth as the branches of Dinah and the Shechemites entwined? As faith began to uproot despair, the whispers of generations echoed within the hearts of the faithful. "For I know the plans I have for you," the Lord had said, "plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Thus a new chapter beckoned with promises not yet grasped, nudging all toward realization that out of the shadows of strife, divinely wrought destinies awaited discovery. And so it came to pass, in the majestic unfolding of God's redemptive design, that Dinah, once marked by sorrow, stood at the threshold of a new era as she emerged as an unexpected champion of peace. In the days following the covenant, as the sun lit the skies over Canaan, the hearts of her family and the Shechemites began to blend, creating a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of mercy, trust, and newfound hope. The first fruits of their alliance bore witness to the transformation taking place, as the families set forth with shared initiatives to bless the land with labor and unity. Offerings were lifted high to the heavens, each act resonating with an echo of gratitude that crossed the threshold of the divine. Together, they tended the fields, built up the homes, and intermingled their cultures, as laughter began to resound within the once muted walls of their communities. Dinah felt the warmth of a restored family as her kin, and those once perceived as adversaries, gathered with the awe of rediscovered kinship. "Look how God has turned our sorrow to joy," she declared one evening as she sat with her brothers and the Shechemite women, the orange glow of the setting sun illuminating their faces. "In our darkest hours, he beckoned us towards the light. We chose to choose grace over vengeance, and now we reap the rewards." As her words settled among them, the onlookers felt a stirring in their hearts, a burgeoning faith in the paths they walked together. Inspiration ignited within individuals whose lives had been marred by loss. They began to share stories of their pasts, igniting hope and fostering meaningful relationships once thought improbable. Yet unbeknownst to them, the winds of divine providence stirred within the depths of Canaan, for God was weaving a lineage that would stretch far beyond the confines of their immediate struggles. Dinah's heart swelled with a fervent assurance that her choices in forgiveness echoed through generations, a silent yet powerful legacy that would bear fruit through the covenant. One day, as Dinah meandered beneath the olive trees, her heartache transformed into a tapestry of purpose. She paused to admire the serenity that enveloped her. "O Lord, my journey has pierced through darkness into this radiant dawn," she whispered beneath the branches. "I sense your sovereignty in all that transpires. Is this the manifestation of the promise to my family?" Indeed, in the depths of her spirit, the assurance arose that her act of defiance against despair had shifted the enemy's stronghold upon her family. For she was never merely seeking peace. She was enveloping herself in the very rhythm of heaven's grace. And as she knelt, a gentle voice whispered through the gentle rustle of leaves, "From this day forward, will you carry forth the legacy of reconciliation throughout all generations." Thus the days turned to weeks, and in this sacred marriage of hearts, the news of Dinah and the Shechemites' alliance reached many regions beyond Canaan. The earth itself seemed to rejoice in the fruits of their unity, and travelers brought tales of the extraordinary transformation that flowed from a once shattered legacy now stitched together by God's divine hand. One morning, as the sun rose to cast rays of gold upon the earth, Jacob summoned his sons and Dinah. "You have shown remarkable strength, binding what was once broken," he declared with reverence. "Your courage has turned our path from vengeance to restoration. In this I see God's hand leading us. Let us proclaim his wonders together and spread forth the message of hope." As Jacob spoke, a feeling of jubilance rose among them. The brothers exchanged grateful glances, their hearts reminded that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in love and healing. Dinah, now a symbol of restoration, realized her unique calling to guide both her family and the Shechemites into the embrace of divine purpose. And so they gathered, not in the spirit of vengeance, but in the light of hope, proclaiming the marvelous love of God as they stepped into their shared destiny, a destiny that would stand as a monument to grace in the shadow of a scarred history. Thus, the legacy of Dinah became the harbinger of peace, one that stretched far and wide, whispering a timeless message for generations. "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." The joy and reconciliation rippling through the community echoed into the hearts of those beyond, as God's perfect plan unfurled. The name of Dinah became synonymous with courage and restoration, a beacon shining forth the possibilities that lay within forgiveness, a legacy inviting countless others into the fold of divine redemptive grace. So as this chapter draws to a close, dear friend, ponder anew the significance of reconciliation, the strength found in love, and the purpose found amidst the ashes. For in the arch of God's eternal narrative, remember that you too are invited to be part of this unfolding story. If you have been blessed by the power of this testimony, I implore you to support this channel as we share the light of God's Word widely. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now, helping spread God's truth through the algorithm, and comment with your reflections. How has this story impacted your faith? Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful story with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth and hope in their lives. Together, let's continue to build a community rooted in faith and love.